Hi there, and welcome to our webinar on how to develop your mobile strategy. My name is Justin Thorpe, and I'm the Senior Manager of Marketing Operations at AddThis. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. We're recording this webinar, and we'll send out links to the recording and slides. Please submit your questions in the GoToWebinar console on the right of your screen. For those of you not familiar with AddThis, we help companies optimize marketing effectiveness with tools and audiences powered by extraordinary interest-based behavioral data. You've likely seen our share buttons, which are on over 15 million websites. Over the last year, we've been expanding our efforts to help marketers better engage and convert their customers. Specifically, we're doing this through website tools like welcome bars, overlays, sliders, where you can promote personalized messages and calls to action for the different visitor types that you come to on your site. For example, we showed our mobile-friendly overlay to many of you as you were exiting the landing page for this webinar. We featured a relevant mobile strategy article we thought this audience might enjoy. The result, a 17% click-through rate. Many of our tools are free. We'd love for you to give them a try and tell us what you think. All you have to do is activate the tools in your dashboard or head to addthis.com to sign up. But enough about us, on to today's talk. Brian Lacey is the Chief Executive Officer, and Milena is the Project Manager at leading development and design agency Mobomo that is specialized in mobile apps. Their thought leadership has helped them to land top mobile clients, the Knot, Navy, NASA, and over 200 other mobile apps that they've developed. For today's talk, the Mobomo team will walk through the importance and process for how to develop your mobile strategy. And now, Brian and Milena, over to you.
Thanks for the intro. As you mentioned, we are Mobomo. We're a creative and design and engineering agency located in the DC area, and we've definitely created more than 200 mobile apps for the White House, Navy, and did some responsive work with NASA. And we'll go over some of the best practices in developing a mobile strategy that we've helped our customers through time go through. So for the agenda for today, we talk about why you need a mobile strategy, understanding the roles in mobile, and then actually how you're going to get started and getting that process going. So first off, why do you need a mobile strategy? It's because it's the standard today. Smartphones are now the primary device for media consumption, and it's the user's go-to device to actually do search. And basically, this is your audience right here. Odds are, a bunch of you right now are looking at your phone instead of looking at the screen. We're used to everyone being attached to the mobile devices. And then because of that, it is your single point of where you want to actually go and actually reach your users. Another thing to consider about mobile is it's not just mobile phones. There's the emergence of the wearables, being the smartwatches, and also Internet of Things, where the content that you were creating and the experience that you're creating goes beyond just the phone to the wearables into things like consoles and to appliances. A couple things to actually take into account when you're developing your mobile strategy is the environmental factors that are that exist. Your pipe, basically your connection to the internet on a smartphone, is the lowest. It's very limited. The problem with that is it's compounded that users are extremely impatient and they will not put up with the loading time. Studies have shown that after 10 seconds, you're going to lose anybody's interest and they're going to click away and they're going to do something else. And Google recommends that your mobile loading time should be just 2 seconds. So because of that, you need to really think about how you're going to present and get the content on your mobile solution to those users as fast as possible. The other thing to consider is the devices. Basically, it's outside of your control. You cannot assume there's going to be a standard screen size or processor. And then you need to, because of that, think about what is the best solution that adapts to both the UI and the content that you're trying to get out there. So when you look at those two types of things, we recommend that you have an API kind of driven solution where it's the content is new, it's fresh, and it's coming from a server, and then it's being parsed out in a way that any device can consume it and display it. A good example of that is like Twitter or Facebook, where it's basically like a feed type thing that it's new, and then it can be displayed on a variety of different screen sizes. Milena now is going to talk about the strategy side.
When you're working on your mobile strategy, whether that's building an app, a website, or both, it's important to start with your business goals. Defining your business goals really will help you determine whether you need a product, a service, or a reach-oriented type of mobile strategy. The uncomfortable truth is that users aren't really downloading apps like they are before. You really have to understand the mobile landscape that's out there today and make sure your business goals and the mobile landscape jive with your strategy together. While apps represent half of the time spent on phones, people aren't really necessarily spending time on your apps. There's a lot of apps out there. The app stores are extremely saturated, and stores don't really make it any easier with their poor discovery features and the number of competitor apps. No one is going to the stores, and you really have to spend a lot of money to drive people to the store, or you have to go a different route. You can't just throw apps into the store and expect it to happen. With the high cost of an app at $3 per head, really consider if an app is a direction for your business needs. So now we'll look at whether a website or an app really fits your business strategy. If you're going the website route, you're really trying to get at your largest audience. This is more for the reach factor here. When it comes to content sharing, it really shouldn't require an app if the fastest path is a mobile website. I know that apps are really hot and they're really cool to say that you have, but oftentimes a website or a mobile website, responsive website, is really all that you need to get out there, and then make sure it does respond well in order to rank high on Google. And then if you decide to go the mobile app route, you're really going at this because you want to give your user a rich experience. This is more like a product or a service that hinges on the mobile app experience, and the goal is of the app is a standalone product, or you're trying to augment something, one of your services. And I know even for myself, for all of you iPhone users, you're also fighting against storage. I'm constantly getting the storage full sign and deciding, all right, which app am I going to have to delete today? And you have to think about, is my app going to make the cut? Is my app going to... Facebook really isn't going to get deleted, neither is Twitter, more than likely. If your app isn't as necessary as those or as addictive as those, then your app isn't going to make it. You can also do both. You can deploy on both platforms. Pinterest is an example of, they do this platform well on both ends, mostly because they started with a very large user base. They've been successful with that. They turned it into a mobile app, and it also has a very addictive factor involved. As anybody who uses Pinterest might know, you end up there and kind of fall down a well of information and pictures.
So I'm going to go over some examples with clients that we've had and going through what the mobile strategy and the direction that we took with them. For NASA, the goal really was we wanted to reach the most amount of users. For a company called Baseball Factory, the goal was really a rich experience. And then with Mars Chocolate, the goal for a mobile strategy was to improve a vocational part of their jobs, to make their lives easier. So the first one, NASA, we were lucky enough to be involved with them on their redesign that launched last April. And while we were going through that process with them, there was a question of is it better to have a mobile, app strategy versus responsive web? And we kind of had to look at what their needs as a federal agency were. For a federal agency like NASA, the audience is the taxpayers. So it's pretty much anyone and everyone. Right? It wasn't refined in any sense. What they produce is a lot of very news-based structure, so it was like a CNN or a Fox News. They also had something interesting that they have to deal with as a federal agency, which is 508 compliance, which is it needs to be accessible for people with knee cognitions or eyesight issues. And then whatever we did, it had to work with their existing web presence. And most importantly, we wanted to create content that they could use and share it on social media and adapt the content to be easily viewed on their different platforms. And what NASA didn't need was certain things that like mobile apps give you, like phone, push notifications, camera, storage, user authentication. So as we're going through the process, everything was really leaning towards you need to do more of a responsive web approach with your content. And the results were good. After we launched something using Drupal, we were able to double their traffic on mobile. On the mobile device, video is now the primary consumed piece on the phone. So if you're doing the Pluto flyby, if there's a launch, people are watching the videos on their phone instead of going to their desktop. And now that they had the responsive site, their user satisfaction went up quite a bit. So with their reach goals, they were able to optimize content, publish, create once and publish many mentality, where their content can be viewed, shared on something like Facebook. Now, Facebook and Twitter, their goals are not to allow you to go outside their app, so they're pushing any kind of links into their in-app browser, and the content that NASA has here fits perfectly into that. The next example here is Baseball Factory. They're a unique company. They're the largest chain of training facilities for grade school, high school, and college baseball players. And what they were looking to create was an experience that helped their players deal with something called game time pressure, which is actually the audio and visual cues that represent what you're facing during an actual game. And a lot of that is like the coach cheering for you, and the biggest pressure for all these guys is actually their parents cheering for them. And they wanted to create an app that helped them train to deal with those pressures, so when they're actually in the game, it's not that big of a deal. So you can kind of see the app playing here on the other side. Now their needs were unique. They needed to do balance exercises. So we built training things that they hold the phone to their chest, and the gyroscope will help them gauge how well they're balancing. If they go off too much, then they fail. They needed user authentication because we grouped people into teams, and they were able to actually compete against each other on their scores. They needed things like offline storage, so if they recorded their parents cheering for them, they could listen to it on their audio devices while they're doing their batting or running exercises. They needed the camera because they wanted to take pictures of themselves and make their own unique baseball card. We needed push notifications to alert the users about upcoming training facility events. We needed to do parental tools where we could push content of what the kids are doing or what they're saying on it so the parents have an idea how they're going. And as a whole, we needed to create a unique experience that really encompasses all the cool things that a phone can do all in one app. What they didn't need really was like a news website or something that's like an informational site. They needed a rich experience, and that's why we kind of pushed them to doing everything on an app. And it went very well. We were able to launch it at the Little League World Series, and Kyle Ripley Jr. Actually endorsed it for him. So that went well. The last example is something we did for Mars Chocolate. They had came to us trying to look for ways that they can improve the processes of the guys in the sales field when they're out in the field. And the example I'm showing here is something we built for their audit team. When they're going around the stores making sure that their product is being properly displayed, they had audit teams go out, but it was all done on paper and clipboard. And they would do it out in the field. They might take pictures, and they got to go back. There's double entry into a new system, and then that system will give them reports on like a quarterly basis. Since everybody already has a mobile phone, we help them build an application where they can be basically they can schedule their routes. They're told which stores to go visit. They can do the audit with the phone as they're there, and then they can take pictures of the product as it's displayed on the shelves and annotate it and kind of send that back to corporate. Now, corporate now has real-time information about how their products are being displayed out in the field. They can see if it's passing certain grades, and then they can take actions from corporate to send education material back to the stores or actually work with them individually or cancel the work with those guys. So you can kind of see from those three examples, each one has different goals and business needs, and then you kind of craft a mobile solution based off of that.
You can see based off of those examples that there's definitely different ways you can go, so we're going to help you get started. The first thing you should do is really define your minimum viable product. You can save a lot of time and money this way, and it's really the best way to go. You may not know what a minimum viable product is, but an MVP is a product which has just enough features so you learn about the product and what's really needed for the next phase. Building an MVP is less expensive than using a product with more features because it allows a lot less assumptions. You get to prove those assumptions versus throwing cool features out there. For example, if you're building an app or a website and you want to throw in a camera, you think it would be cool, but it doesn't necessarily add to the quality of your product, and that's not really what's driving your users there, then you just wasted time and money and development putting that into the app before proving that it was a value add for your users. And you need to be okay with showing your minimum viable product. Oftentimes, it's not the best looking thing in the world right off the bat, but it does prove what you need to know to move on to that next phase. If maybe it's off of an app and into a website, or off of a website or into an app, or a second version. Another thing to keep in mind is your content needs to be consumable. We recommend an RSS2 format or XML feeds, just like we were talking about earlier, being able to get a more of a real-time feed there. And then after you've got those down, it's time to decide on the type of development you want to engage in. Really, this is all about cost, and your specific needs are going to, we'll go into shortly. With your development, whether you decide to engage in a dev shop or you decide to take it all in-house, you need to think about your budget, how that's going to go across with your marketing and launch strategy, and we'll go into feedback and how that goes into continuous improvement.
So like Elena mentioned earlier, building internally really comes down to, is it your core product? Is it an adjunct to your existing product line, or is it something that's kind of a one-off unique thing? And then what does that do to your overall maintenance and long-term costs within that? The basic fact of the matter is if you're going to be doing something that's native, like iOS or Android, then you need to bring on somebody that has those development skills, and you're going to have to find a way to pay them either through cost savings if it's helping reduce costs on your processes, or you're actually generating revenue, and then you can afford that dev. There's a variety of different stacks that you could approach to build it in. There's native, obviously Swift and Java, the Android SDK, or you could do something that's more of a web-based approach like Ionic, which is Angular and Node-based, or you could build it in straight HTML and wrap it in something like Cordova or PhoneGap. Those are really great for what I would say like data displays, like informational pieces. But if you're looking for something that has a little bit more of a tactile, high animation kind of fun approach to it, the native is always the best approach there.
When it comes to engaging a dev shop, this gives you a little more leverage as far as resources go. You may not have all the technology in-house, but if you engage in a dev shop, you no longer have to worry about those resources. When you're going through vetting a dev shop, you need to think about, does the shop offer strategic planning? What kind of project management style do they use? Does that go with the way your internal planning goes? Does the shop offer design, or do you need to get another shop to do that? And how are you going to coordinate those three things? And what kind of software development is used? Again, with cost here, you probably get the most bang for your buck this way. You have access to more resources, technology, advice from a variety of different people, and also when it comes to maintenance, you can keep a dev shop engaged with maintenance costs rather than a full-time person per se. And at this point, you've launched your app or your website, and it's all about optimizing visibility and tracking at this point, and it's going to cost money. You can't put, if you decide to put an app out in the store, things are not going to happen for themselves. You really have to spend the money and the effort to get it out there. For example, when it comes to optimizing visibility, it's important to market it. Push social engagement. If you have a blog, put that out there. Because stores have very poor discovery features, you have to really drive your users to engagement. Same with tracking and analytics and feedback. We need to think future-wise. We need to think what's the next phase of this product or service that we're putting out there. Some tools that I've used, both paid and free, are Mixpanel. Mixpanel is really cool for subscription services like Netflix or Hulu. You can identify individual users instead of relying on cookie tracking, which gives you more accurate data. Something else I've used is Kissmetrics. That's also really good for subscription services. It traces the most common path followed by customers within your website. And then the free version, the free and also very powerful version, is Google Analytics for both mobile and desktop. It's important to note that there's two different IDs used there. You get your own mobile dashboard and your own desktop dashboard. It's a little harder to track individual users, so I don't recommend this for subscription services. But for websites or mobile apps, then this is a good way to go, especially since it's free. Google Analytics also offers a certification to help you understand what you need to look for and how.
Some resources to reach out to as you're kind of building your strategy here is you can go through some sites like Clutch will actually list out different development shops or services out there that can help you. There's ratings in there. You can kind of list out what their skill sets, and you can just link out to them and see some of their past performance. The other option is you could do something that's bid-based, like Crew or Upwork. If you have an MVP, you want to get something low-end and lean out the door to kind of vet it out there and see if there's any kind of traction that you can get. I would recommend this as an approach. If you're looking for more of a soup to nuts, design, strategy, development, launch, and maintenance, you can go to a shop. There's great ones like Fueled up in New York City. Y Media Labs, I think, is great. Yeti, of course, us. But if you're going to go these routes, I would definitely say do your research, talk to a lot of people, get some feedback. Each one's going to come to you with a different approach, and you got to find one that best fits your needs. And thank you. Have any questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian and Milena. I really great presentation. Yes, now is the time for questions. So if you ever were thinking about launching your mobile strategy and want to know more about how you should approach that, we'd love to hear from you. So please submit your questions in the GoToWebinar console, and we will punch through them right now. So Dave asks, should I create a different mobile website, or should I make it more mobile optimized? What do you guys think?
I do mobile optimized. I would do responsive because you have a single code base, and then your maintenance is lower. If you're going to have a mobile website and then a regular website, then you have two code bases, and it just makes things more difficult. I feel like if you do it right, when you're doing responsive first, and you're coding basically the bare minimum that you need to bring in for mobile, and then add in things as you move out to the desktop, it'll work out perfectly for you.
Awesome. Was next question. Are there any frameworks that make it easier for websites that have lots of pages that want to go responsive? So if I was a site that had that was fairly complex, and wanted to really support a mobile strategy, are there frameworks or libraries that helps to make that easier?
I mean, as far if it's a very large website, I'm assuming you have you're doing a lot of content management. We lean towards the open source approach, so Drupal and WordPress make a lot of sense. We use Drupal for NASA. We were able to put in 500 content writers in that one, and then work with their hundreds of different sub-sites within that, and then you're able to stamp out different pages that adapt to different content that they had while keeping a level of consistency. But as far as to make things mobile optimized, I would suggest doing something headless. You'd use something like Angular and then layer on top a responsive framework like Bootstrap or Foundation, and then just have Angular kind of pass out that information to that front-end layer.
Fantastic. And Christian, let's just make sure that we note those different frameworks, and then everyone for those specific frameworks and libraries that Brian just mentioned, we'll make sure that those are linked both in the follow-up email and in the follow-up article. A lot of Neil asks, a lot of responsive sites are generic. Do you have any tips for making specific device versions unique? Yeah, I mean, so how does one handle the fact that there are so many different ways that a site can be designed, or so many different devices that it can be consumed on, and you want to make it look great for all of them? How do you approach that?
Well, I mean, what I am excited about today is with the new things that you can do with CSS animations, you can bring that into the mobile environment. You can see like subtle kind of changes that you weren't able to get with the previous kind of website browsers that we had on the phones before. Now, to make things great, I mean, you have to always consider what they want to see on the phone, why they're coming to the site to begin with on their phone, and kind of adapt the content for that. And then as you kind of move things further out, once you kind of hit that tablet size, maybe 600 pixels and up, then you can really start adding in a lot of the cool, animations and functionalities that come with that. But we always ask ourselves right from the get-go when we design the pages first in the mobile phone, why am I even here on my phone? What's the scenario that I could be coming to your site for? Is there a frustration or a pain point? And make sure that's the first thing that they're seeing. And then once you get above kind of that 600 pixel size, then we have a lot of fun with the design.
Awesome. You hear a lot of people today talk about not just mobile optimized, but mobile first. So when is it better to think about more generally in terms of being mobile optimized and being good on all platforms versus really thinking about when mobile should be the first and really to start out with only type of platform that I'm thinking about?
We try to be mobile first in everything we do, especially on the web. As we mentioned before, if you really have 2 seconds to download a page on your phones, and if you need to be responsive to be ranked on Google these days, you need to make sure that you have a good experience there. So from every way in which you code the page, actually present the content, and then move it out, you have to have a mobile first mentality. Mobile optimized is a good approach if you already kind of have something existing out there and you need to make sure you have a mobile presence. If your user base really isn't going to hit your site on a mobile phone, then that's a better approach. But you should think about that and kind of always have a mobile mentality pretty much in anything you do now, because that's just the scenario in which we live in.
Awesome. Thank you. S. Clements asked, are there recommended platforms to develop in the mobile first mentality? I think you talked about a few of them with Bootstrap. I guess that's more mobile optimized, but are there mobile first libraries or tools that help you versus mobile optimized solutions?
I mean, to be honest, I'm usually pretty wary about loading in a lot of libraries because that's usually what you have to download and increase your download speed. If you can roll your own grid, it makes your load time even smaller. But my favorite go-to ones are usually Bootstrap and Foundation for the UI layer. And then we're big on Angular and Ember for your model view controller, in which that's actually sending the content out to you to be displayed on that Bootstrap layer.
Awesome.
The great part about using Angular is you can pick and choose a lot of times what you're going to be sending back up.
Gotcha. That's great. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much to everyone who attended. Thank you to Brian and Milena for sharing their wisdom with all of us on mobile strategy.